Yo, what is up everyone? Back here with another video. In today's video, we're going to be breaking down the team that I used to get 10th place in the Global Challenge 3. So I was almost able to win this tournament. If I was able to get one or two more wins in there, I was like right within striking distance, but pretty happy with how I did. 10th place in these is no slouch, especially considering their online and closed team sheet. So I'm feeling really happy about how I did, and my Global Challenge performances have only gotten better over time, which has been feeling really nice overall. Of course, you know, it's definitely a format that's a little more volatile, so being able to perform consistently well is super nice. But we did finish with a final rating of 1779. Not sure whether or not that wins in North America yet, but it is 10th overall in the standings. I'm assuming there probably is one person over. But what I wanted to do today was actually talk about the team itself, the origins of the team, and how I ended up bringing it to this tournament. So let's start over all the way back at, I have a little Annihilape thing there. Let's start all the way back at the VR August challenge. So basically what happened is I decided that I wanted to, bring something different to the VR August challenge. I had used Sun for quite a bit, and I had actually brought Sun to the previous two regionals in this format so far. And the thing is I wanted a bit of a change up at the start of the meta, and this was all the way back in, I believe, August. So it was right after Worlds happening online, and I was able to compete here and get for third place actually. And to be honest, I probably could have even maybe won the whole thing. I ended up losing to Audric David in a really close set, but overall the team felt pretty good. But you would be surprised to note that I just kind of didn't play the team after this, right? Like I just kind of was like, oh, okay. And I actually considered bringing the team to Pittsburgh, but I ended up defaulting back to Sun, which ended up not going so well for me. And then I ended up taking it again, Sun again, to Milwaukee, and it didn't go so well for me, right? Now, I think Milwaukee, I definitely probably should have done better than I did. I got really unlucky. I think in Pittsburgh, I was making some pretty bad mistakes that ended up costing me with the Sun team. But that being said, right? Focusing on the current team at hand, basically I realized like, oh, I never really like gave this team a chance, right? But let's actually talk about like why the team itself works together before I get into why I decided to use it for this grand challenge. So let's start out with actually one of the main Pokemon here, which is going to be that Excadrill. So Excadrill is a Pokemon that is incredibly undervalued, I think, in a lot of cases, but it has some deliberate like weaknesses you have to be careful with. So Excadrill is a Pokemon that can do a lot of damage, especially with that Sand Rush boost. It can go really quickly. It can do a bunch of damage into a lot of meta threats, especially paired with a Stellar Terra boosting its damage even more. Now, the main issue for Excadrill really is, again, that Intimidate and also Rillaboom being one of the main Pokemon in the metagame. That being said, focusing the team around Excadrill and Tyranitar synergy was the main core concept behind this team. So starting out with Excadrill, Excadrill is just fast offensive steel and ground coverage. It's excellent into like many Pokemon metagames. So we're talking Ninetales Alola, we're talking Incineroar, we're talking Magmar, Electabuzz, Terra Fairy, Dragonite, right? Like there's a ton of Pokemon that end up getting hit really hard by this Excadrill. Goldingo as well, right? Now, that is really strong and what makes it really good. Of course, Stellar Terra again makes it do a lot of damage. Excadrill is a very, very high attack stat. I think it's 135 base attack stat. So it's doing a lot of damage across the board. Sand Rush as well, again, is going to allow its outspeed, so it just pairs really well next to Tyranitar. Tyranitar being able to take Weather Control back, do a bunch of damage, and the Focus Sash is going to allow this Excadrill to run frail, but do a lot of damage, even though, you know, it can go down to any attack. You have that extra layer of protection. Now, Tyranitar is pretty straightforward, right? We do need a... I should also hide this Loki. Hold on. How do I... There you go. So if we look over here, right, at Tyranitar, Tyranitar is excellent weather control, right? It uses that Assault Vest to make its bulk even stronger, right? So it can take like any special hit pretty well, even super effective special hits, right? As well too, it's excellent weather control, right? It's really good into against Sun, so you switch it in against a Torkoal, Torkoal's doing the damage. Switch it on Ninetales, you ruin the Aurora Veil, you're able to weaken that. Even versus Rain, you could switch it in, take away the Rain, and now you're able to outspeed with certain Pokemon, or just be able to take less damage on the partner that you're protecting. As well too, another thing that is really nice about it is, again, it sets that stand for Excadrill, which is super nice. And on top of that too, Knockoff as a move is just really broken in general. It's just able to do a ton of damage across the board. You're throwing knocks into a bunch of Pokemon that don't want to be taking those knocks. It's going to put them in really awkward positions. So that's definitely a really good benefit of the Tyranitar. Also, too, with the Terra Flying, you're able to synergize next to Excadrill. Excadrill can throw out Earthquakes. You can go for Terra Flying and Rock Slide. You're going to be able to hit double spread moves into them, and you're not going to be hitting your own Tyranitar, which is super nice. Also, that Terra Flying Terra Blast gives Tyranitar access to a lot of things like being able to deal with opposing Rillaboom, opposing fighting types that are normally really good into it. So it flips a lot of matchups on its head and allows it some defensive flexibility while still being able to actually use it offensively with Terra Blast. Corviknight is kind of the Pokemon that's meant to patch some of the weaknesses of Tyranitar and Excadrill. So one of the teams that's popped up, obviously, is like a lot of the balance teams featuring like Incineroar, Rillaboom, Sneasler stuff, right? Corviknight is a really good answer into those teams because you're able to get some bulk ups, you're able to do a bunch of damage into that, and you can use it as a condition to win against those teams. You can also go for Tailwind to make your team side faster as well, which is a really big deal. And on top of that, Corviknight with the Steel and Flying typing is just really good, right? So it's really good into those balancey type of cores. You have to be pretty careful, obviously, against Goldingo. Goldingo can put a little pressure into it, so you have to definitely be thinking about that. That being said, the ground immunity is pretty nice as well, so you can use it next to Excadrill to spam Earthquake. If you maybe lead Tyranitar and Excadrill, you can immediately switch to Corviknight, go for an Earthquake. As well, too, I think the bulk up leftover set, again, makes it a really good endgame option that you could leverage into a lot of teams. And then on top of that, the speed control is great, and then Mirror Armor is great to block Intimidate. So you can actually set it up freely without being worried about that. Indeedee is really nice because you can set Psychic Terrain. So again, I was talking about how Rillaboom is annoying. This team definitely has a lot of design around it based around being able to beat Rillaboom, right? Rillaboom is obviously a pretty annoying Pokemon, so having a lot of tools to be able to beat it is really nice. That Corviknight, the Terra Flying on Tyranitar, and then having the Indeedee, which can switch in change terrain, right? So not only is it excellent at blocking fake outs from a lot of opposing Pokemon, Psychic Terrain lets Indeedee spam Expanding Force, which is super nice, and gives you an alternative offensive fast mode with Indeedee and Sneasler, right? Being able to proc that Psychic Seed on the Sneasler, you're going to be able to do a bunch of damage with that Expanding Force as well. Protect is pretty nice too on the Scarf set, even because you're able to sometimes stall turns that you need to, and then you can switch it out if you have resources in the back you can use. Trick is super nice, so you can just shut down specific Pokemon that really rely on their items, or just lock them into move they don't want to be locked into. And then on top of that as well, like as a late game sweeper, you can like use it definitely just to clear boards with Expanding Force if you get rid of it really early, something like that. But setting up the Psychic Seed Sneasler is really important as well. Then Sneasler just has excellent coverage. It pressures a lot of the different Pokemon in the meta. You look at Rillaboom, Direclaw, Goldingo, Terra Dark Throat Chop, Incineroar, you go for close combat. Opposing Whimsicots, you throw out a Direclaw, Ursaluna, close combat, right? The list goes on, basically. Can pressure a lot of different Pokemon. Now, being another fast attacker is really nice because you're a little bit less reliant on the Tailwind being your only form of speed control with the Unburden boost and from the Psychic Seed, and then having Sand for your Excadrill to move faster. Those are a lot of factors that allow these Pokemon to really threaten, even if maybe the opponent has the Tailwind up or something. That being said, though, Direclaw obviously is a really great reason to use Sneasler as well. Whenever I get the opportunity to, I love throwing out Direclaws. That being said, obviously, if there's a better attack, you click the better attack. But being able to Direclaw into something is really nice, and it always gives you an out if you're caught in a tricky situation. And then Terra Dark Throat Chop, again, is excellent for Goldingo, which I kind of already mentioned, but that's a really nice tech on this team to help with the Goldingo matchup as well. Then finally, Annihilape. You'll notice a lot of the team is physical attackers, right? Besides the Indeedee, so they could risk being over weak to Incineroar, even though you have the Corviknight, of course, that can Mirror Armor. But having a defiant Pokemon to kind of disincentivize that is really nice. It's also really good for the Porygon 2 and Ursaluna teams. And on top of that, it has like great pressure with Final Gambit. It can knock out stuff like Dragonite through multi-skill. A bunch of different Pokemon you could be throwing Final Gambit into to really shut it down. And it actually sets up some really interesting combinations with Indeedee with the Trick too that you can kind of exploit. So that's mostly what I'll say about that. And then on top of that too, I just think in general, Annihilape is just a really good like flex pick, right? You can use it in a lot of situations. Maybe you call out the opponent's leading Incineroar a lot, right? Or make some different choices around that. But regardless, Annihilape, really strong Pokemon. So now let's actually talk about how I decided to use it for this tournament, right? So essentially my thought process was, I was like, okay, so I have a limited amount of time. I've used Sun. I actually used Sun to decent success in the previous Grand Challenge, even though it hadn't been going well at the regionals. But I ended up peaking at 1789 actually in the last Grand Challenge, but then losing to Sun because of some volatile like aspects of it. So I'm like, okay, what if I lock a team that I've done well with before that has a little bit less volatile aspects and isn't something me building something last minute to try and build something strong for this GC? So I ended up locking this team in, especially since I hadn't really given it a chance. I actually had a conversation with some friends. They're like, how come you've never brought this to like an event or anything? I feel like it's a strong team. Like you should, like maybe consider using it. I'm like, you know what, you're probably right. Like I used in VR and then I didn't really use it after, but it's still probably good, right? So yeah, the team was able to perform really well, to be honest. Like, at least to my standards, I felt like it was definitely able to play well. There were definitely some weird stuff that I hit on day two. So day one started out actually really phenomenally. I ended up playing a bunch of games. I ended up, I think, being at 19-3 by the end of, well, day one to day two, I guess, which is a really solid record. I was like basically already 1699 at that point, which is a phenomenal start. But then day two went horribly, right? But because I'd given myself such a buffer, I finished day two at like 33 games, I think at like 1650 something, right? So it wasn't great. I was actually pretty like upset at the time because I'm like, oh man, like I just threw away like a perfect like good opportunity. But I'm like, okay, I have time, I can reset. And then I played the games. By the way, all the games from most of the days, I think from day one and day three, are on Sierra's channel because she was doing an unofficial GC broadcast and my team was featured on there. But um, I was able to play really well and actually rack up a crazy win streak. So I ended up finishing 1779, right? Now, what felt like really strong about this team and what felt like a little bit weak about this team? So what I really liked about this team was I really liked its ability to immediately exert pressure, right? In a lot of matchups, you're forcing the opponent on the back foot. You're forcing them to respond to you and not like basically play offensively immediately to you. Now, there are a couple things that can be particularly annoying, right? I found that there are some meta trends now that can get really difficult. So, for example, if you play versus like a well played Incineroar plus like a certain like I'm not gonna say exactly what it is because there's obviously a chance I still bring this, but basically well played Incineroar plus like some other partners could be particularly annoying. And then on top of that too, right, the ever random like grassy seed Golden Go is like really annoying for this team to play against. It's not impossible, but it's definitely like you have to play really well. That being said, though, overall, I did feel like the team was pretty strong. There's definitely always some ways that you can lose with any team, right? Like, no team is perfect for sure, but I definitely felt like this team is pretty interesting to explore in this format, and I think it has a really unique place. Utilizing the Corviknight, it's not a commonly seen Pokemon, but it's super, super cool. I really like how Corviknight plays. I think it's honestly one of the better Pokemon on this team for sure, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I just wanted to give a quick breakdown of the team I use. I'm pretty proud of this performance in general. I know that a lot of the content on the channel has actually been ZA focused, but I am still playing VGC. Surprise. I'm going to be competing in Las Vegas and at LAIC. So, yeah, I'm just really happy about this performance. Really excited to obviously see what comes next. And thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Catch you later.